Okay, let's now handle the functionality for the delete activity in our activity store. And just below our edit activity, it doesn't really matter where we put these, by the way. I'm just really putting these actions where I feel they're most appropriately located. But I'm going to create another action called delete activity. And once again, this is going to be an async method, and this is going to take the ID, which is a string. And if we take a look at what we're doing inside the app component here, we were also setting a target for the button so that we could isolate the loading indicator to a specific button that was being clicked. And we'll need to do the same thing inside our MobX store as well. So that means we're going to need another observable. And I'll create an observable. And I'll just call this target, and I'm just going to set this to an empty string. And inside the delete activity, we'll also need to take another parameter for the events that we're getting back from our button. So I'm just going to copy this event from our handle delete activity and paste it in here. And I'll just remove the T and put it back in so I can get the auto import for the React synthetic events. And if we take a look, then we can see that it's in here. So in our delete activity then, now that we have the event and the ID, what we can do is say this.submitting equals true, and we can say this.target is equal to the events.currentTarget.name. And then what we want to do is we want to use the agent activities delete method, and we'll add an await in front of this, and we also need to put this inside a try catch block actually. So we'll say try catch and the error, and then I'll just cut and paste the await inside there. And what else were we doing? Well, first of all, we were removing it from our activities array, and we were using the activities filter. But because we're using the observable map, we have a better way to do this. And what we can do is say this dot activity registry dot deletes, and then we can just pass in the key, which is the ID of the activity. And then we were just turning off the submitting in this case as well. So we'll say this.submitting equals false. And while I'm here, I'm just going to turn the target back to an empty string. And we'll just take the list submitting and the targets. And if we get an error, we'll turn both of those back off again. And we'll say console.log and the error in this case. And let's go to our activity list where we've got our delete button. And what we can bring in here is we can bring in the delete activity, we can also bring in submitting, and we can also bring in our target here as well, which means we can remove all of the properties that we're passing down into our activity list. So let's remove these, and we can also remove the interface from here as well, and I'll just remove this interface entirely, and then we can go back up the chain. So our activity list is a child of our dashboard, so we can remove all of these props from here now, and that means we can remove all of these props from our activity dashboard, as well as the type parameter here. And that means we can remove our interface as well. So let's get rid of this. And if we go to our parent component, the app component, that means we can remove all of this from our activity dashboard. And we've finally cleaned all of this up. And then we can also remove our handle delete activity method. Wonderful. So let's go back to our activity list. Let's make sure this functionality is working first of all, and then we can go ahead and remove anything else. And this should be good. we've got our delete activity. This doesn't change, this stays the same. And let's go ahead and go to our activity list and see if we can delete activities. So I'm just going to pick on the past activity 11. I'll click on delete. We get the loading indicator and it's disappeared from this list. And this should have persisted back to our database. So I'm just going to refresh. And sure enough, it has. So we're looking good. What we're going to do next is clean up all of the unused code from our React components so they're nice and lean and just really serve the purpose of providing the data for our views. So we'll have a bit of a cleanup next.